Oh.
I think we're live, Max.
We are. That's gone well.
Haven't got
You're
Jack.
listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hey!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast. We'll forget that all happened. There's only 4 people who noticed, so it's okay. Sorry, that was a little bit of technical hijinks behind at the back end, where it was telling me that we needed a premium X account to stream to X, but it still did the YouTube bit. So I was there fiddling around mindlessly with, click boxes and things, thinking that nothing was happening, and there was 14 seconds of just dead air. But that's fine. We're here. It is the Cricket Podcast. India have won again because they're really good. Welcome to the show. It's me and Ross today. How are you doing, Ross? Fresh from painting a basement?
Yeah, I've still got paint all over my fingers, that you can see here. So typically it goes on the walls, but I quite like a bit of finger painting. It's weird, isn't it? After 600 episodes, when Jack is obviously the master of the ship, and so to then do a live one without him is we're empty. We're an empty vessel, Max. But never mind. Another game of cricket, Max. The Champions Trophy does not disappoint. We are well and truly treated to some top-class fielding, batting and bowling, all on display that we can get into. Jos Buttler has resigned as England captain, which is, not a surprise. We said he was going to. It's been an omni-shambles from England.
One of the most inevitable results of this Champions Trophy.
Mm-hmm. With the semi-finals are now confirmed, with South Africa having to have flown to Dubai from Pakistan this morning, and now they're having to fly back because of it's so well organised. A very, very easy thing to do. And thank you for joining in the chat. We recognise it's very late in India, but hello to the Focus, JTK, MBA, Swami, Shubham. Get your questions into the chat. We'll do whatever we can to answer them. Max, we had cricket today. Big game of cricket. What the hell happened?
Well, it was a taster of what maybe some people think might be the final. So perhaps a preview of what's to come. We will see. But it was the final match in Group A between India and New Zealand to see who would top the group and who would have the pleasure of facing South Africa or Australia. Because obviously more rain has denied Australia the chance of beating. Well, it denied them the chance of beating South Africa. It denied them the chance of beating Afghanistan as well. So they slotted in nicely into second place in the group after South Africa. We'll get to that bit later. Let's not get all the fun out of the way and the England bashing done in the first 5 minutes. So yes, a game between India and New Zealand to see who could play Australia. I suppose that's what you want to do, isn't it? In this competition, play the team that's got their entire bowling attack missing. And New Zealand won the toss and they elected to field, which I think is the first time someone's done that in Dubai so far. A lack of dew, meaning that maybe it doesn't matter so much whether you win the toss. And they got off to a pretty decent start with the ball. A couple of early wickets put India under pressure, notably Virat Kohli being caught by the latest of a real... Well, he's got a bit of a portfolio of wonder catches, doesn't he, Glenn Phillips now? We should no longer be surprised. But this one was possibly even more ridiculous than all the rest of them. If you haven't seen it, go and look it up and then come back, because it's obscene. And that left India 30 for 3 and staring down the barrel of what could have been an iffy innings. But a good middle-order recovery, led by Shreyas Iyer, supported well by Akshar Patel, got them into a bit of a more comfortable position, I suppose, and allowed them to have a little bash at the end. Hardik Pandya, runnable 45, helped them get up to 249 for 9. And I think at that stage, Ross, where were you? I was thinking... Not a bad total. Obviously, it's been fairly tricky chasing so far for India against teams that are substantially worse than their bowling attack. So I figured it would be a challenge, but I don't know, 50-50 at that stage, I thought.
Yeah, I think India always had a slight advantage because of the team that they ended up picking. They've obviously got
Mm.
an unbelievable battery of spinners, and that suits the pitches in Dubai. I kind of thought that every single time New Zealand and India play, it always seems to be about a 250 plays 250 game.
Mm.
And so I was just like, we're in for an absolute barnstormer again. And Max, for a long time, I thought New Zealand were well and truly in this, but there was a magical performance from Varun Chakravarti, and
There was.
him, and there was a middle overs bit where Jadeja had the ball on the string, couldn't really hit it off the pitch, off the square, and yeah, you just saw the real talent come in. And Chakravarti didn't just kind of spin these guys out; he drifted them out. He bowled seam up deliveries. He did everything.
He
today.
took an off stump out the
Yeah,
ground. Have
it
you ever
was.
seen an off spinner take an off stump out the ground? That
Yeah,
was a particular highlight for me. Really enjoyed that.
a
But yeah,
mesmerising performance, I thought, Max.
yeah, absolutely. So I mean, Kane Williamson was the anchor for New Zealand in that innings. He put on 81, but no one else really managed to support him. Tom Latham threatened to get a little bit of impetus back into New Zealand's innings in those middle stages, but everyone came and went, and Kane Williamson was pretty much left running out of partners. And yeah, by the time he just ran past one from Akshar Patel, I think he'd basically given up. But like you said, it was a proper performance from India's spinners. They took 9 of the wickets, while Hardik Pandya managed to get what was probably actually pretty important wicket of Rachin Ravindra early on, because you felt like he would be one of the guys that might be able to score slightly quicker, um, and maybe get New Zealand off to a faster start that meant that they had a bit more leeway in those middle overs if, as it turned out, did happen, India's spinners strangled them and chewed up the balls, that maybe they had a bit more to play with. But that wasn't the case. They never really got going, and they just ended up falling further and further behind the game, didn't they?
Yeah, whisper it quietly, Max, but it feels like Hardik Pandya is back. It's been a little while since we've seen him perform really, really well. And actually, he's quietly going about his work. Obviously, in the last IPL, we had the whole Hardik versus Rohit Sharma captaincy piece, etc. But he is an absolute cornerstone for this team. As much as the spinners are doing great work, he is slotted in to that batting lineup in a very nice position and always seems to contribute. And with the ball, another very important kind of contribution early on, getting the wicket of Rachin Ravindra. Max, let's start with New Zealand, because I actually thought they were pretty good today. I think they did unbelievably well in the field. You're right around Glenn Phillips. He should just have the Glenn Phillips catch of the tournament. It shouldn't just be the catch of the tournament. It should just be like,
put it aside, let everyone else play the the human sport, and then you can go and do your Superman shit and get your own award.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And he's just unbelievable. But Kane Williamson also pulled one out of the bag as well, diving one-handed. Again, they are a team that do the basics unbelievably well. And they would have thought they were right in this game. But what you see with the makeup of Santner, Bracewell, and Ravindra is 3 okay spinners. I think it's fair to say, and they're like Santner is a good player. Bracewell is a PE teacher, but still does pretty well with a spin with the ball. And Ravindra has his moments, right? But that spin attack versus Chakravarti, Kuldeep Yadav, Jadeja, Akshar Patel.
Yeah,
it's a night and day difference.
Not in the same world, is it? And you bear in mind that not only are all of India's spinners better than New Zealand's, they had 4 of them. So, not obviously 20 overs really of pace more than 20 overs of pace in the end that New Zealand ended up bowling, whereas India only had to bowl 8, and it was very much a deck for the spinners today. You sort of see that in the way it was just so difficult to keep the runs flowing in those middle overs. Although, I mean, in fairness, the seamers did all right. Matt Henry got a 5 for himself. Shami went at under 4 and over. Carl Jameson went at under 4 and over. So, maybe just a day for the bowlers. But in those middle overs in particular, having all 4 of them Akshar, Varun, Kuldeep, and Jadeja is naughty.
Yeah. And it was nice to see kind of some of the way in which they were trying to go about it. You saw actually it was difficult, especially the New Zealand innings, to try and deal with it. Kane Williamson changed his batting approach kind of 2 or 3 times during it and ended up going, right, the only way I'm going to be able to score runs here is actually over extra cover. And he was trying to give himself space to use, obviously, the ball spinning away from him from Jadeja.
Yeah, it's like a 1 hour gap between 2 shots that were absolutely identical. It was I was a bit confused. I don't know if my stream had just stopped and then restarted.
And yeah, Mitch Santner obviously threatened, and being the captain of the side was just like, oh, do you know what? I'm going to take charge here. And he biffed a couple of big old sixes. One went into the 3rd tier of the stadium, which you can't hit a 6. Don't get me wrong, Mitch Santner's a good player, but that was an absolute beast that I'd kind of expect from someone like Glenn Phillips, not Mitchell Santner. So fair play there. Max, the elephant in the room is that a lot of the people who follow us on Twitter and a lot of people who listen to the podcast are split at the moment, Max. They are split. And the India fans for it are actually the ones who are split, because everyone else who is not an Indian fan is sitting there going, clearly there's a slight advantage to playing all of your games at one place. But the India fan base seems to be split 50-50. Max, here it did feel like India did have a slight advantage for it. They knew exactly the team that they needed to pick. Obviously, they didn't. They picked another spinner because that's what has been kind of working. And now they're in a position where the team that they would have had to face, so South Africa, have now had to go from Pakistan to Dubai, and now they've flown back, so they're going to go and play in the semi-final against New Zealand, and Australia kind of rock up and they're going to be playing them. I do think it's a slight advantage. Stay in the same hotel, stay in the same facilities, use the same nets.
Yeah.
But it's not an excuse. They're still a bloody good cricket team, but it is a little bit. It's a bit salty if you're a South African sitting on a plane right now going back to Lahore, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously, India are the ones refusing to play in Pakistan, right? So it's important to get them in the tournament. We know that you don't really have a Champions Trophy without India in it. It's not financially viable.
Nor Pakistan, right? You want to have both there.
And if Pakistan are hosting it, so that side of it makes sense. But I think it's ended up having them all in one place. It does end up lending you an advantage, just like logistically. I take the point that people say about everyone can pick a squad for one venue, but I don't know. I think the other teams know what they're going to get at Dubai. It's not going to be a surprise, right? It's something that everyone can prepare for. So I don't know if I buy into that so much as the fact that it just so happens that Dubai is the kind of place where you can bowl 4 world-class spinners, and there is not another team in this competition that is even close to having that. Maybe Afghanistan.
Some of the batting, I think, is also a bit of an advantage, right? Actually being able to play there and get it. Like Shreyas Iyer is having a really good tournament.
Yeah, getting used to the conditions, is having to change conditions as a batter is probably more of an issue than the thing about picking your team. But the thing that pisses me off the most is it's just the way it's been put together, right? You've got everyone is playing in Pakistan unless they're playing against India. And then you've got the last group game of, obviously the last group is going to decide who plays in the who plays who in the semi-final, and therefore who has to go to Dubai. But then the first semi-final is the one that's scheduled in Dubai. Like I don't know, just like give an extra couple of days in between rather than just having one day and then a semi-final that could be in Dubai, because then you end up with this stupid situation of South Africa flying out and then flying back just in case they had to play. And
would somebody think of climate change, for goodness sake?
Well, yeah, there's that too, but it just I don't know. I mean, it's obviously awkward to schedule, but like, come on, you could have done a better job than having a situation where someone has to fly out aimlessly. Like that's the thing that gets me, right? That just they've known this is going to be the case for so long, and they've still managed to totally like fuck it up. It's just it's stupid. But
India are the
as
best
to
team
the
in the
cricket,
world.
right? It's
But
you know, it is
that-
India are still the best team in the world.
Yeah,
So
they are. Like, there's not even a shadow of a doubt that India are the best team in the world. It's just that is the bit that's frustrating about it, like the way in which it's set up, and just take kind of the excuses out of the other people, right? But they don't help themselves. They just don't help themselves. The whole situation around India do all of this stuff. It's just frustrating because it does
it takes
slightly.
away
Yeah, it
from
takes the slight
yeah,
sheen, ever so
yeah.
slightly. I wouldn't say it's not like the tournament is going to have an asterisk on it when they win it. Like, they don't get me
No.
wrong, but
And
that's the last
for
one
India
they want.
fans, I doubt it takes much away from it at all. But
Yeah.
I think there's more to the point. Like for for the rest of the world, it gives the rest of the world an opportunity to be bitter about it when really that's not what you want. You want them to be able to celebrate an India team that's as good as I can remember it being, right
Mm.
at the moment, and as dominant as I can remember it being in so many different formats. And that's what you want the rest of the world to take from it, not asterisks, right? You don't want punctuations getting in the way, Ross. That's not what we want
Yeah.
in the world of cricket.
Well,
There's obviously there is a bit to it, but I think
yeah.
ultimately,
If I'm
does it
perfectly
matter
honest,
that
mate,
much?
a lot in our live chat at the moment. So people like Chirag and Diabolic Drake, etc. I think again there is just a bit of just like, yeah, it's a bit annoying. Like, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
There's kind of an acceptance. Yes, there's an advantage.
Yes, there's an advantage.
But
Is it the reason
is it?
India are going to win this competition? No.
No, I completely agree. Completely agree. Well, Max, what I did think was New Zealand put up a good fight, and I do think that when it comes to the final, if they are the ones there, then they would have learned a lot from this game.
Yeah.
And you saw, I think they ended up dropping Devon Conway so they could accommodate an extra spinner right in that space, and also have the option of Daryl Mitchell bowling his military mediums if required. I'm guessing. I'm not sure they would have dropped him otherwise. But yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for what would happen in the final. I still think India will beat this New Zealand team in the final, but anything can happen. And
Yeah, they can. I think you're right. I think New Zealand will have learned a lot. It was that middle over period was really interesting for me. You highlighted it when we were talking earlier. If you look at Daryl Mitchell, Tom Latham, Glenn Phillips, and Michael Bracewell, LBW, 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 LBW. The fourth one, LBW asterisk, because it wasn't out and they didn't.
Kate Williamson told
for some
Bracewell to go.
reason.
He told it was he was outside the line, wasn't hitting the stumps, and he was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
get off, mate. You got no." And then Bracewell can hit him, right? And so there are key bits.
And Santner bowled as well, and that just the whole thing about that was how good India were at just keeping them tight, bowling at the stumps. They threatened the stumps with almost every delivery.
Yeah, set
And
the
that-
field well as well,
Just,
right?
yeah, they did. They kept a lot of pressure on. So there was so many dot balls that New Zealand faced in the end. That it's it's so it's two sides of the same coin, right? You've got India bowling brilliantly, keeping the ball on target, making it very difficult for New Zealand to engineer ways to keep things running and be inventive. And you saw that eventually when they did try and be inventive, Tom Latham, tried reverse sweeping out LBW.
He did a shot with the back of his bat, which I quite liked. Highly risky.
Maybe that's
Highly risky,
that's the new meta.
If I did that, it'd come off the wrong side, just plume straight up to point or something.
Yeah, well, you're not a professional cricketer, so you're excused for that one. But
I have the
I mean,
ego
it's just
of one, I think, but not the ability of one.
yeah. But I think the thing, again, the point I'm trying to make is like the thing that New Zealand needs to try and take away from this is thinking about how they do if India get into that rhythm, how they knock them out of that rhythm. I mean, it's easier said than done, right? But they've got to come up with a way. If you find yourself in this situation again, where you kind of stop those Indian bowlers from being able to bowl at the stumps every single ball, whether it's a bit of footwork or whatever, the kind of thing that Kane Williamson did a couple of times, a bit more of that perhaps, but it's the evidence is there from Tom Latham's wicket, like the way India bowled, they bowled so well that any kind of invention is just so high risk that it's difficult. And I think trying to take it deep perhaps and give themselves a shot at the end of going 7, 8 and over off the last 8 maybe was where they ended up looking, but they lost too many wickets and Dew never arrived, so they were just India were just happy to churn through 4 world-class spinners doing the same old thing, and it was it was really impressive from India.
And
That
I think
was
that
was as impressive as I remember them being with the ball for a while, and quite imposing on the rest of the tournament, I think.
Yeah, and I think Max, what's difficult around the whole take it deep piece is that which of the bowlers are they going to target?
Well,
Because
yeah.
that's the real difficulty, right? Even though Jadeja and Akshar Patel are both left armers, they both bowl something a little bit different. It is a different concept to try and hit it. Chakravarti was a complete bag of tricks today. Kuldeep Yadav was an absolute magician as well. Got hit for a couple of sixes, but kept on being confident in what he was trying to do, and that ultimately ended up giving him his rewards and picks up 2 for. And then the weak links in the bowling lineup are Hardik Pandya and Mohammad Shami, who both are exceptional cricketers as well. So it's not like they can go and be like, yeah, don't worry, we'll take 20 off that over and we'll get there. But I thought, yeah, there was a good fight, some fight that we hadn't seen against this India side. So
yeah, I mean, it's the biggest test India have had so far by a long way, and there were moments, but yeah, they passed it with flying colours.
Indeed. Max, we should probably take a quick break and then come back and talk about the absolute circus that is the England cricket team.
We should. We'll take a break and we'll be back in a couple of seconds.
You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back. Right, this is the bit that we're looking forward to, right? We've done the India loving. They're really good. New Zealand, well played, good effort. But this is what we're all here for. Another pile in on England. We had one on Wednesday. Nothing's changed. More piling in. Would you like to start with the inconsequential game for England against South Africa, or do you want to jump straight into Butler resigning?
No, I think we should start with the actual cricket, not the circus around it.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll get that out of the way. England batted first, lost 2 early wickets, lost 3 early wickets, lost another wicket. In particular, Harry Brook, desperate to prove to everyone that no, he really, really can't play spin, having got off to a pretty good start with the bat. What was it, 10 balls of Maharaj before he just gave up and smashed one up in the air? Good work, Harry. Captaincy material. Joss Butler not really doing anything on his last attempt. Liam Livingstone, stumped off a spinner mindlessly, 9 or 15. What a surprise. Jofra Archer looking like England's best batter again. That seems about right. 179 all out. Pathetic, embarrassing, level whatever adjectives you like at it. It was not good. And South Africa were never going to lose that game, and they didn't. They even gave Tristan Stubbs a go at opening the batting for a laugh because, hey, why not? It's England. You can't possibly lose. And
I think there was illness in the camp, wasn't there? So actually, we lost. England managed to get absolutely hammered by a team that had the shits. So.
Yeah, well, South Africa certainly ran through England, and but Klaassen, I think the big takeaway for South Africa, I suppose, would be that Heinrich Klaassen was back and fit, and 64 or 56, proving that as ever he is the danger man in that South Africa order. I mean, yeah, they cantered home. They didn't even take 30 overs to knock it off, and. It's just shit, wasn't it? England are crap. But we knew that.
And some of the England fans were, it doesn't matter, it's a dead rubber, all that kind of stuff. Well, I think it really does.
I think actually it was quite a lot on the line here, right? Your position in the next iteration of whatever this England ODI team is, for starters. Not being panned by everyone when you get home would be good for your mental health as well, if you can put in an innings or 2.
It's just a bit of it's not a bit, it's an absolute shit show, isn't it? If we're perfectly honest. We have absolutely embarrassed ourselves at the Champions Trophy. Like, been not even at the races. We've been literally, if this was a horse race, Max, we've collapsed on the way to the gate. We've not even got out of the block.
We've run backwards out of the gate.
We're already glue. That's what we are in this race. But what's really frustrating, Max, is that this was Joss Butler's last game as white ball captain. And I kind of feel like he warranted a little bit more from his team around him. Like, Joss Butler has had some pretty good moments in the England shirt. He's an incredibly talented cricketer. it is not quite clicked as captain. Obviously, he takes the one T20 World Cup trophy back with him, and he can kind of dine out for that on after dinner speeches, etc., to go with the 2019 World Cup and the Jason Roy throw that he then flung through the stumps. But you do kind of worry here. Is this what does this mean for Josh Butler? Because he's not old, is he? He's 34. He's got an awful lot of talent, but he could easily do what Alex Hales has done. Not that part of the Alex Hales story, the kind of going and being a bit of a cricketing nomad and go and make an absolute fortune, doing whatever, and not play for England. That is definitely an option. And English cricket would be worse without him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a quality player, right? And I think he's maybe not done it in this tournament, but he's got it in his locker, and he's still playing at the highest level in franchise cricket. Still a big name in the IPL. Still performs year in year out. So you don't want to jettison someone like that. But again, all the stuff, all the franchise cricket that he plays, where he performs, is T20 cricket. One day cricket is a different game, and England haven't cared about it for 5 years because they won the World Cup in 2019. That was the end of the cycle, that they were absolutely desperate to play. They play how many, like 30 odd ODIs in the run up to that, getting that team together, and it is an afterthought now. They don't care. They don't care about one day cricket, and it shows because they don't know how to play it. They haven't got the skill set to play one day cricket. They're approaching it like a T20, and they can't do that, because there was a period where it was flat decks everywhere, and it looked like the future of one day cricket was 350 was par, and anything under that would be chased down in the blink of an eye. But it's come back a bit now. It's no longer like that. There's a lot more skill involved in those middle overs and keeping things ticking in sort of non-boundary strike rates, and England don't have a team that are particularly good at that. And even some of the players that they've been looking at bringing in, like, Jacob Bethel looks like a decent bet for the future. He's coming to the test side. He's done quite well. He's been pretty good in the T20s, but he's still about boundaries. Right? It's still about hitting the big long shots. And some of the grounds that, we've been playing at in the Champions Trophy are on the bigger side, boundary wise. And when you're in positions like that, when twos and even threes become important to the game, if that's not something that you're practiced in doing in recent years, then you're going to be at a disadvantage. And I think that's part of it. It's part just not playing one day cricket, but it is also picking a T20 team to play one day cricket. Like, it's not just the lack of practice, it's the fact that they pick people who are good at doing a different thing to do this thing. And it kind of works in the test team, I suppose, but there's this weird sort of, you've got this weird kind of, I don't know, the issue that you've got in a test, you don't tend to just put 5 people back on the boundary because you're looking to take wickets and there's no time pressure. It kind of works, but you almost think, like, if teams did just put 5 people on the boundary in a test match against England, they would just hit the ball up in the air and get out because they'd get bored, like Harry Brook did against Sri Lanka when they just hit it outside of stump for ages. I don't know. It almost feels like they've got children's brains at times when they're playing.
Well, I think from a tactic perspective, they did get it wrong, right? They prepared that we were going to play 90-mile-an-hour bowlers, and that's going to get us through. We'll do this shock and awe tactic, and we'll have Adil Rashid to kind of control things of whether at least 10 overs. So he'll go at less than kind of 4.5 and over, and we'll have a bit of control.
Everyone else can go at 8.
And then we'll have Joe Root, Joe Root's a perfectly good bowler, but he's not someone who should be bowling like 5 of your 50 overs in ODI cricket. Liam Livingstone is he's not as good as he was a couple of years ago. That's I think that's a complete fact now. And relying on somebody who is probably past their peak is really difficult, because again, I think Liam Livingstone's a brilliant player. Is he a brilliant ODI player? I don't think so. And can you really point to a back catalogue of great performances when under pressure? And unfortunately, I think Matt Roller's got some stats out around Liam Livingstone's average, and it's kind of less than 10.
84 runs, I think, in 8 ICC games.
Okay, yeah, well, okay, slightly more than 10, ever so slightly.
Well, it's not good.
Yeah. So you're kind of in that position where you're. Well, yeah, I don't know what his average is, but you can see that there's massive problems here, and England also have jettisoned players who could have done a really good job in this tournament, and other nations do not seem to do it. So the likes of James Vince, the likes of David Milan, like I'm not saying it's going to be absolutely, it's going to solve all the problems, but you've got two people there who know how to bat properly through an ODI, and they've demonstrated that they can do it. There's people like Sam Curran, who's not in this team. He's really out of favour with Brendan McCullum, it seems like at the moment, but he doesn't bowl 90 mile an hour. He bowls an awful lot of, bits and pieces, right? He literally is a very, very talented T20 player, and I think there is something that to be said for us needing a left-hander in this lineup. And then from the other perspective is not putting all of the pressure on someone like Jamie Smith. Jamie Smith is going to be a fantastic cricketer. He is a fantastic. He's going to be a fantastic England player. I've got no doubt about that. But him coming in after an injury, him batting at 3, and then England going, oh yeah, we needed some more batting. So it's like, well, you needed to also think about the balance of the other pieces of the team. You had 3 frontline pace bowlers and 3 wicket keepers in your 11. Like anyone who's not right there will see that as going to be an issue.
And 1 left-hander with the bat who's opening, which is. I mean, it's also like people overdo matchups and things a bit too much these days. Like, oh, the left-hander's on, let's bring on the off spinner. You probably need to think a little bit more deeply than that, but it's probably not a coincidence that the one game where England managed to marshal the middle overs was where the left-hander batted throughout the whole thing. It makes a difference, right? It's
saying as a left-hander yourself, Max, obviously,
of course, yeah, in the left-handers club, but like with the ball and with the bat, England don't have any, and it's bizarre. They're the only team who doesn't. Like it's quite odd. I hopefully they put aside this pace fetish that they've got, because I mean it's been doing my head in for a little while. Even Michael Vaughan's picked up on it now. Even he's on the bandwagon for 90 miles an hour bowlers being maybe not just the way to go with, because I don't know if you noticed, Ross, but some of the best batters in the world can play 90 mile an hour bowling.
Yeah, and they seem to hit it for 6 quite often, actually. The ball, especially the short stuff. England seem to just hit it up into the air, as we had from Buttler against Afghanistan. Max, who then is going to replace Joss Buttler? Because there's a few candidates.
Big question, isn't it?
Livingston, I think we should rule out immediately. He has been the vice captain.
Is he a captain? Is he the vice captain?
What? Yeah, I think he's the vice captain.
Oh,
yeah.
He shouldn't be in the team, so
it can't be Livingston.
Absolutely not.
Swami's wanting it to be Duckett. I think Ben Duckett's too busy being an all-format player. I think that's the route for him. And he's also got a side hustle of the bucket hat business that he runs. So can he really be 100% dedicated to being a captain?
Yeah. Obviously, can't go back to Joe Root. We've done that. We know what Joe Root's captaincy is like. It will be more of the same, I expect. I doubt he'd want it either, to be honest.
Yeah, we don't want it anywhere near Joe Root. We want Joe Root to play until he's like 45. So
just concentrate on being really good at the thing. I mean, the one that stares you in the face that everyone's been talking about is Harry Brook, right? But I've seen no evidence that he is the man. He needs to learn how to play spin first before he can. Again, like I'm not even sure that. I mean, I guess you have to pick him because like they've decided. I mean, he's obviously incredibly talented and has been unreal in Test matches, and he's been good in T20s. And he's the guy, right? He's the guy for the future, and they're backing him, and that's fine. Like it's good to actually have some faith in someone and try and if you know they've got the talent, mold them into the next guy that you want to shape a team around. But I don't know. I don't think he's really ready.
I don't think so. And Asim's asked it in the chat, right?
Yeah.
Nasser Hussain wants Brook. Atherton thinks he's going to get too much pressure from playing multi-formats and captain the white
ball. Just what you say about Ben Duckett.
Yeah, I don't think it can be that. And there's now talk of splitting a T20 captain, an ODI captain, and the Test captaincy as well. That's been kind of mooted in the media in the last 24 hours or so. I think England need to really consider what is going to be the fresh look of this team. And there are people who I think have a decent chance in it, but again, it's the longevity of it. So there is a 2-year horizon on this because of the South Africa and Zimbabwe ODI World Cup in 2027. So there is a clear route there, but we're not going to play loads of ODI cricket. We've got West Indies coming to town in the summer, and I think that there's going to have to be some fresh thinking. It can't be Adil Rashid. Like it's not. It's like he's too old now. Yeah. And again, why would you take your diamond and then heap a load of more pressure on your leg spinner? Like, I just don't. I don't understand why. Yeah. We can't just take the best player and make them captain. It's not the right thing to do. And then
it's I don't think there's a simple answer. That I mean, if you're not splitting the ODI and the T20 captaincy, then obviously the first thing is it has to be someone who's going to play both. And that's probably only going to be Harry Brook, mainly out of that lot. You'd think moving forward. I think having separate captains for ODI and T20 makes perfect sense. It could be the same person if you do end up with someone who's is obviously the first name on the team sheet across formats, but there's no need to do that. You could have someone who would be a perfect ODI captain. I mean, you mentioned James Vince. It's not going to be James Vince, but he is the kind of character I expect. Loads of experience, captain's county side. Knows the game quite well. That kind of person, that kind of character, to be the ODI captain. And I don't know, someone more edgy for the T20 because it's a laugh, right?
I don't think any England fan would sit there now and just be like they'd be unhappy with something that moves forward and a player potentially not even in the team. I don't like you've got an awful lot of people who turn around and say, well, because of the 100, they're playing less. You've devalued the Royal London One Day Cup, right, in this country.
Yeah.
So it's been demoted to being kind of a B team for players, and some of the people who play red ball cricket getting a chance to play white ball cricket, rather than it being kind of a real specialist skill set. But there are people who have done pretty well across the board, right? And I think, Sam Hain's been mentioned in the chat. You've got Tom Abel of Somerset, Lewis Gregory of Somerset as well. And I think that England have to look a little bit further than what's right in front of them right now. Change is required. Can Brendan McCullum do that? I think so. There's a little bit of obviously a cult following around Bazball in Test cricket, but there's no reason why you can't do something a little bit different and have faith in some other people. Max, has there been any positives that's come out of this Champions Trophy? Because I've got one.
You've got one, have you? Is it that we're hopefully going to get a New England team? Is that the positive?
No, my positive is
Little Rashid still works.
Yeah, well, that is positive. I've taken that as granted, if I'm perfectly honest.
No, what's your positive?
Jofra Archer hasn't got injured.
Oh, yeah, that's a very good point.
And we game by game looks like he's getting back to some fitness, which actually could be of real benefit. Obviously, England want him to play Test cricket. Joe Root overused him and it broke him. Bless him. And there's the IPL upcoming in less than a month's time.
Yeah.
So there is plenty of cricket to be played, but Jofra Archer coming back to fitness is a real positive for England. Saqib Mahmood has just come back from injury as well. Jamie Overton's come back from injury. Mark Wood's now injured, unsurprisingly. But there is at least the Ashes plan for Brendan McCullum of let's take all these pace bowlers. At least in the back of his mind, something's working.
Well, apart from the bit where Mark Wood might need knee surgery, but never mind.
I'm just like there's going to be men that we lose along the way. But there is that part for me. Like there's not much to grab at in the last 6 months of ODI cricket that England have played, 9 months. But yeah, Jofra Archer coming back to some fitness is probably the only thing that I'm going, well, this guy.
Yeah.
I also really like Ben Duckett playing. I think he's a class player.
My
But yeah, you're right. More questions.
my answer for to round this off, my answer for England ODI captain is obviously Sam Curran, because he's a Surrey boy. No, I don't think it would be the worst shout. I think he should be in the team, and if he's in the team, I think he'd be a half decent shout for the captain. But he won't get picked because he bowls too slowly and he doesn't have a high release point, so he's stuffed. No chance. He's never getting a gig again. Not till they move on.
Well, Max, when is the next fixture? I think it's on Tuesday. Yes, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, the next semi-final. Wednesday, the second semi-final, and then the final will be next Sunday. So hopefully we'll be back around to cover that as a full trio. I think we've got some good cricket on our hands. I think this is probably a bigger game for New Zealand than it was for India today. Is my feeling. I feel like New Zealand having to play South Africa at a venue where there could be lots of runs is probably more of an issue for them compared to facing a slightly damaged Australia side than the difference India will get out of playing either Australia or South Africa in Dubai. I felt like it. I feel like South Africa have probably got the edge on that second semi-final.
Yeah, I think it's pretty fair. Well, we will find out,
and India obviously are going to be in the final, right? They're not. They've got some revenge as well to get. It's a repeat of the World Cup final. They're not going to let that slip, are they? Are they?
Who knows? Well, we'll find out. We'll be back probably in the middle of the week, quite possibly on Wednesday. So if you've been watching and you're liking what we're doing, we've got some big news coming up as well. We're partnering with a new organisation, and we'll announce that in the next kind of couple of weeks. And Max, there's an awful lot of cricket ahead of us. IPL is going to be in town, so get on to our patreon.com/the cricket pod. It is a 24-hour chat for people who live around the globe talking about cricket.
It is 24/7 non-stop action.
And we're going to do an IPL draft or auction as well ahead of the tournament for kind of fantasy playing. And we also need to do our podcast covering our draft mock auction that we did back in November. That will be released soon. Max, anything else to add?
I did see someone ask how many guitars I've got. There's actually only 2 guitars. There's also a mandolin and a ukulele down there, so they might have been. They're more my size, you see. They're a bit more appropriate. That's all I've got left. Goodbye, England. You are the worst team. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. Basically, that's where we are. Yeah, we will see you all in the week, and have a good one.